this tutorial, we're going to be going over the basics of Adobe Premiere Pro CS6. So once you've launched the program, the first thing you're going to want to do is click on New Project. Now you can name your project. It's usually something related to the video you're going to make. So I'm just going to call this SMC Adobe Premiere, Student Media Center Adobe Premiere. You can also change where it's saved if you want to, especially if you're going to be saving to an external drive, and we'll have a video on that later. But for now, I'm just going to keep it at the default one. Then we hit OK. And you can also hit your format for your sequence. Your sequence is essentially where all your video footage is assembled. And I'm just going to pick just random one here. And then I'll also name this Adobe tutorial. So don't worry too much if you don't hit the right format or the one that your video was shot in, because Adobe Premiere will adjust it for you once you get started. I'm going to hit OK there. Okay, so here's your main interface, and you've kind of got roughly four sections here. When you first start, the first thing you'll see is your source window. This is where you look at and preview all of your video clips and images before putting them into your project or your sequence. Over here is your program monitor. This is showing you what your finished product is going to look like. So it essentially shows you what the timeline is doing. And the timeline is where all your clips and images and audio is assembled. You can see on the timeline you have several video tracks as well as audio tracks. Video tracks are where moving images and still images go. Audio is where all your sound goes. And you can adjust various clips on here as you go. You'll also see over here you've got your project panel, and this is where all your media is stored essentially. So when you want to access it, this is where you'll look. Okay, so the first thing you want to do is import your media into your project. I'm going to go File, Import, and then click on that and hit Import. See, and that brings my media right here. If you're working with a lot of clips, you're also going to want to probably organize these into bins. Essentially, it's just folders that you put like clips together, so clips that are in the same scene or have a similar theme or something like that, something that'll help you remember where they're going. So in order to do that, you just go File, New, then Bin. You name the bin, and I'm just going to call it Clips because I've only got the one here. But you can name it whatever you'd like, and then you click on and drag over to the folder, and then when you open it, there it is. So you can also place these panels pretty much anywhere you want within the program. So you can see this bin has opened up. I'm just going to click and drag it and then put it over here just to make it a little easier to manage. And now when I double click on the clip here, it shows up in our source monitor. So you can take this playhead and drag it back and forth and kind of scan through your video. And once you've got an idea of where you want it to start, put your playhead where you want your clip to start, hit in, or I on your keyboard for in, and O on your keyboard for out. And that makes an in point over here and an out point here. And then you can just click and drag your media onto your timeline. And like I said before, this is saying that it doesn't match the sequence settings. So we're just going to say change sequence settings. So now our clip is in the correct setting for our sequence is the correct setting for the clips we're using. And if you look over here on your program monitor, you can now see the clip coming up, how it looks like on your timeline. So let's talk about the tools that we have here available to us. So the first thing you'll notice is a little control panel under your under your source monitor. And these will let you do a variety of things. So we'll just go over it one by one. First, you've got this add marker. And a marker is essentially something you can use to denote important pieces of information for yourself. It makes it easy to find along your timeline. So you put a marker at an important piece, and then you know where to find it a little easier. And it comes in handy, especially when you're dealing with, dozens or hundreds of clips even. This one is mark in. So if you want to mark an in point, you can, instead of hitting the I on your keyboard, you can also click this. So we'll just show you what that looks like. So we'll put this here, mark in. And then right next to it, shouldn't be a surprise, is mark out. So that you can place an out point instead of using the keyboard shortcut. Next to that is go to in. So this will immediately put your playhead at your in point. So if you hit that, just goes right over to there. This helps you step back. So it's step back exactly a frame. So you can click that if you need to be very precise with your clips and get exactly where you want it to. Right next to it is just play, and then you click it again to stop. And that'll play your clip in real time. And then this is the opposite of step back. It's step forward, and it will go advance the clip exactly one frame. Okay, so right next to that is the opposite of go to in. It's go to out, and this will just automatically go to whatever out point you've set. Now here are some very helpful controls. The first one being insert. And what insert does is puts your clip between two other clips. And this effectively increases the length of your timeline. So you've got a clip right now, and let's say on your timeline you want your next clip to go right here to kind of break up this clip. So you would hit I on your keyboard, and that makes an in point on your timeline. Make sure you have your timeline selected. Then you can come back here, select your clip. So we've already set our in and out points here. And then we're going to hit insert. And if you look down, you can see now that the new clip has cut the old clip in half and is in between where the old clip was joined together. This also has the effect of increasing the length of the timeline by the length of this clip. So in some instances, I'm just going to undo that. In some instances, though, you want the clip to go a certain place on the timeline, but you don't want the timeline's overall length to increase. And in order to do that, instead of hitting insert, you hit overwrite. And you see here, the timeline hasn't increased, but where we set the playhead, or where we had our in point, has now placed this clip. And instead of just shoving it over, it overrid it. Okay, and now we're just going to hit Command Z and undo that last action. Okay, so you'll also notice a Tools panel here. And this can come in handy while you're editing. So the first thing to look at would be your selection tool, and this helps you select different clips on the timeline. In fact, I'm going to bring in just a couple random things in here just to have some more stuff that you can see. Bring in a couple more. There we go. And you can just click on that and select whichever clip you want. That'll help you if you want to move the order. So put that here, move this one here, something like that. The next one is your track selection tool. And this essentially helps you select all the tracks on all the clips on a given track. So if we just click this, Now all of these are selected, and we can grab our selection tool and then move them all how we want to. The next is your ripple edit. And this adjusts the endpoint of a clip. So if on this clip we notice that it was a little too long, we can then take that and adjust it this way, and then all the other clips will follow, so we don't end up with any spaces between our clips. And you can do the same thing for what you can also increase clips. So you can also increase the endpoint or decrease. Either way, it'll adjust the other clips so that you don't end up with any gaps. The next one is our rolling edit tool. And this adjusts the points between two clips. So this is essentially not increasing, if we don't want to increase the overall length of our timeline, but we want to adjust the start and end point of two clips, we can grab this, and that will then make this clip longer and this clip shorter. But you'll notice this didn't change. So it kept the overall time, but adjusted how long these two clips were in relationship to each other. You've got your rate stretch tool. So this works by adjusting the end point of a clip in order to make it longer, essentially longer or shorter. So let's show you an example. So we will extend this to the very end. So now we don't have any more media, but we still need it to last longer than it's going to be able to. So we take our rate stretch tool, go to the very end, and then stretch it, and that makes the whole of this clip slower, basically. So you see here, went from 100% to 70.09% of its original speed. The next one is your razor tool. And that works basically just by cutting out parts of a clip. So if for whatever reason you don't like the very end of this clip, you can take your razor tool, click there, go up to your selection tool, and delete it. It also works if you have a longer clip but you only want to apply an effect to part of it. An easy way to do that is to just separate the clips so they look the same, but now as far as Premiere is concerned, they are two separate clips and you can adjust them independently. Next we've got our slip tool, and this adjusts the in and out points of clips kind of simultaneously, so it keeps the cut where it is but moves the videos in and out points essentially at the same time. So to kind of show the difference, if we use between this and the rolling edit tool, if we click on this and adjust these, our cut is moving. So the length of these clips is changing. But if we take our slip tool, the lengths of the clips stay the same, but where they start and end changes. Next one we've got is our slide tool, and that essentially moves a clip along a timeline. It keeps its same in and out points and it keeps its same length, but adjusts the other clips around it. So if we move this clip this way, the next clip gets shorter and the clip before it gets longer. And if we go the other way, the opposite happens. The clip after it gets longer and the clip before it gets shorter. But internally, this clip, the clip we've selected, stays the same. The pen tool allows us to create keyframes or anchor points. Kind of an example is if we wanted to make a fade on this audio. Right now, if we were adjusting it, we could only adjust it up and down across the whole clip. So everything would get softer or everything would get louder. But if we take these little anchor points, then we can make one here, and then adjust it so that this gradually fades up. So it starts at 0 and then, starts at nothing, and then fades up to be audible over time. Your hand tool just moves the timeline. So if you need to get to a place on the timeline, you can do that. You can also do the same thing with this bar here. And then your zoom tool increases the magnification of the timeline. So if you look up here, right now we're kind of going in 30-second chunks. Got 30 seconds, 1 minute. Then if we zoom in, now we're going in 15 seconds, 5 seconds, 10 seconds, 5 seconds, so you can increase how close you get to the, how zoomed in you are on the clip. And this helps a lot with audio editing so that you can start to see where the waveforms are and exactly when sound is happening. So just clicking on it lets you zoom in, and then hitting Alt will make a minus sign, and then you can zoom out. Alternatively, you can grab the very end of this bar here at the timeline and just drag it, and that'll also increase and decrease the magnification. So real quick, we're just going to go over how to apply effects and transitions. Our effects are adjustments you're making to the video. Transitions are ways you move from one clip to another. So if we go over here to the effects panel, and it's the same area where your media is stored, so your project panel. So if we go to effects, and then you can see all these folders. So if you know what you're looking for, you can do a search for what it's called here, or you can kind of browse through the folders to find what you need. So I'm just going to do a simple black and white effect. So I did a search for black and white, and then I click on that effect, and if I've got a clip selected, all I need to do is double click on it, and now you can see the image has gone from color to black and white. Hit undo, Command Z, and now it goes back to color. You can also click and drag it onto the clip that you want. So I did this second one, and now this one's in black and white. To make adjustments, you can go up to the Effects Controls panel, which is right next to your source. Now you can see all the effects that are on this clip. So we've got black and white here. This is kind of binary. There's not too many adjustments you can make to it. But there are other effects that have a lot more components to them. Along the same line, there are some video transitions. So I'm going to delete that. And if we go transitions, and let's make a wipe, we can make some funny looking barn door thing. So you just grab the transition you want, drag it over to the cut between the clip, and then now you can see up here on your program monitor, program panel, whatever you want to call it, a kind of barn door wipe going in between these two clips. If we zoom in on here and then select it, we can then also in the effects panel make adjustments. So this will adjust the duration, it'll adjust where the transition starts, and we'll do more on effects and transitions in a later video, but this is kind of just the basic idea. So once you're done, you'll want to export your video so that all these clips become one single piece, become one single file. So to do that, you come up here and go File, and then Export, Media. Here's your export settings, and you can either have it do the same as your sequence settings, or you can adjust it further. A lot of the time you're going to be working with very large files, so you're probably going to want to adjust the format in order to compress it down a little bit. For most projects, I tend to use this. It's a pretty good compression where you don't lose a lot of quality for the size of the video. And then we're going to want to adjust this to be let's just go with this. You probably want the preset to kind of match what your video is. So if you shot it in 1080p or 720p or something, you want that to match. And same with the frame rate. I'm going to keep the output name, but I'm going to make sure that it goes to the desktop so I can find it. You can pick any folder, but I'm going to pick the desktop so it's easy to find. Then I hit save here. You want to make sure that export audio and export video are selected. And you also want to make sure that work area is selected. So you can pick entire sequence, you can put sequence in and out, but work area is the entire section of the video, so it's just easiest to pick that. Something you want to check, though, is to make sure that the work area doesn't extend farther. For instance, if I had another clip and it was way over here, this huge kind of gap where nothing is going to be put into my video as well. So you're going to end up with a large section of just black video, basically. So you want to check and make sure that it ends where you want it to end. So we're going to delete that, and now the work area is where we want it to end. So we'll go back up here, go File, Export, Media. All our settings are correct. Double check. It's going to the desktop. Hit OK. And then down here, we're going to hit Export. And then this will tell you how far along the video is. Okay, so now the video is exported. We can just double check and make sure it did it right. So looks like it came up on the desktop, and good thing to do is to launch it and just make sure that it plays correctly, plays all the way through. So just kind of scan around, jump around a little bit. If it's super important, you're going to obviously want to watch the whole thing. But usually just doing this kind of cursory examination will catch most of the problems if there are any.